Yes, shop coffee today. I am not at home, as you can probably tell. I've got a different background. I came away last night for what I call a little geek stop, and I like to do these very regularly now I'm retired. And so I do love to do these odd trips to odd, non-touristy places. And of course I've got Romy the camper van, and she is absolutely wonderful to help me indulge all of that. The reason I have stayed in a hotel on this occasion, by the way, I don't think I've actually said where I am. I'm in Coventry, which is a city in the Midlands here in the UK, probably famous for being flattened in World War II during one of the nights of the Blitz, particularly its cathedral. And then, like a phoenix from the ashes, it rebuilt itself with a very positive view of peace and reconciliation, sort of post-war in the 1950s. And there's a lot of brutalist architecture here, which I'm really keen to come and see, because this brutalism has become a real interest of mine since I visited Budapest in January, and I saw all of the Soviet era buildings, you know, the rebuilding, and I just really loved it. So I wanted to come to Coventry to explore all that. Now, the reason I'm in a hotel, Coventry was one of the stops I had planned to do back in February, March, when I came away in Romy, and I did a bit of a tour of the Midlands and then up to Yorkshire, covering, again, the geek interests. I went to Jodrell Bank, the radio telescope, RAF museums, went to see Concorde at Bristol. If you're interested, I've got little short videos over on my ASMR channel. And Coventry was one of the stops I intended to do on my way home, because I wanted to see the cathedral in particular, and also some of the architecture. But what I discovered when I was trying to find somewhere to stay with Romy, because I had Teddy with me, I couldn't find anywhere near the city centre. There were places I could stay and get a bus in. I just didn't want to leave Teddy, and I didn't think she would cope in the city. And after discovering that dogs are allowed in the cathedral, would you believe, I think she would have been fine. Nevertheless, I went straight home back earlier in the year, and I thought I'll just come back on the train, and that is what I have done yesterday. I arrived yesterday. And I think retiring at 56, I think it's important to keep doing things. As I said on other videos, I was never intending to sit back, take it easy in retirement. I mean, I'm doing the social media stuff, but I'm also keen to just get out in the world, get out and see places, and not necessarily far-flung. I like to explore places that are close to home, and then places a little bit further out, like this place. So let me tell you. By the way, this is going to be a chatty video, because lots of you would tell me that you do like me sitting down chatting to you as if you are a friend, and you are a friend. So this is going to be a chatty one. But if you are interested in some of the sites I've seen, I will be doing some short videos, less than 3 minutes, and I will put them on this channel and the ASMR channel as usual. But yeah, I just wanted to sit and tell you why Coventry and what I've really found since I've been here so far. I've got another day today. My train home is later on this afternoon. And another thing I do love is train travel, and I did an interrail trip last year around Europe, loved it, and I just love train travel here in the UK as well. I just think it's a lovely way to see the country, and it's often, not always, but mostly a relaxed way, because there's no traffic jams or accidents on the motorway. We do get problems with delays sometimes and congestion, because trains, some of them, they're so busy and crowded. But I was lucky yesterday to change a couple of times, but each train was space for me to sit. So a real pleasant trip. And I came up through Gloucester, Birmingham, and then across to Coventry, where I am now. So let me tell you a little bit, if you're not local, if you're not from the UK, about Coventry. Now, Coventry was a really important medieval city and very wealthy in its way back medieval times, I think mainly through cloth, and then it developed ribbon, and then industrialization came and they turned their skills. They've been also watchmakers here, sewing machines, so those craftsmen turned their skills into the development of bicycles and then later the motor trade. So the motor trade was massive here, and of course like everywhere else in the UK, the motor trade came to an end in the 80s. Now, when cities go through changes like this, the medieval tiny little streets and timber framed homes, and then industrialization, well, a lot of those medieval areas in other cities are demolished to make way for big monstrous factories and buildings. But something different happened here in Coventry, because pretty much the entire city centre, with all the beautiful, not all, but the majority of the medieval town were demolished with one night during the Blitz, during the Second World War. Coventry was very heavily bombed, and the beautiful cathedral was pretty much flattened, not entirely. There are some ruins left, fortunately, but a lot of the medieval buildings and were demolished. The old town walls had been pulled down prior to that. From my reading since I got here, I've been doing a bit of Googling on the subject during the Civil War. So yeah, there's not much left, but there are little pockets of really lovely medieval town buildings, which I have done a guided walk this morning. Actually got up early this morning. It's going to apparently pour down with rain later on. So I thought, I'm up early, I will do this little guided walk. And I found somewhere on my phone that has got, and I do love self-guided walks. I also like joining walking tours. But this was just on my phone, and you follow the map and it tells you all about the buildings. So I've just done that walk, took about an hour. And there are a surprising number of those beautiful timber framed homes left, buildings and businesses left here in the city centre. So I really enjoyed that. The cathedral itself is a big tourist destination. I visited that yesterday. It's such an inclusive building. I don't know if you've visited places of worship anywhere. Normally, for me, you go into them and it's a very hushed. You've got to be very quiet, and you've got to, you couldn't take children shouting and screaming. You've got to sit. But outside Coventry Cathedral, there's a sign outside saying, "We welcome you if you're the most religious, more religious than the Archbishop of Canterbury, if you have never been, if you're completely anti-religion." It is so, and if your children are screaming, don't worry. It's like, and as I said, you're allowed to take dogs in. It's just completely flabbergasted me, the welcome. But anyway, the main thing about the cathedral is, as I've said to you, the original cathedral was bombed, but there is like a skeleton, some of the windows and the arch, and ironically the spire remained. It didn't crumble at all, so the spire is still there. I can see it from my room here actually. The ruins are quite skeletal, but you can still wander around them. And then in the 50s, and I think it was finished in the 60s, they rebuilt a very modernist cathedral, almost joining on to the ruins. So it is like contrast between medieval and then this real, like, it must have been so modern in its day. It's still modern now. I love the 1960s style because it takes me back to childhood. The tiled fireplaces and the wooden like deer sculptures my parents had. Well, the inside is very much like that. It is quite breathtaking. As you can imagine, very tall ceilings, a lot of wood in there, but they've got a lot of stained glass panels and they're all built kind of staggered. It's not a plain straight room. There are all these, the walls are sort of angled and the light shines through these stained glass windows. It's beautiful. And then the altar is like this great big tapestry. And my favourite bit actually was, I've talked about wooden decorations, where I don't know whether it's the choir stalls, but instead of being the very traditional wood that you might find, say, in Westminster Abbey, they're stalls, but they're all like wooden. And then on the top, they've got like these, I don't know how to describe them, like sculptures with gold metal bits. I will do a short and you'll see it, what I mean on the shorts. And then there's little, I don't know, when they take readings, they're gold coloured metal, and it was catching the light. It was absolutely wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, definitely exceeded my expectations, Coventry Cathedral. And I saw a programme on TV months ago, which was why I added it to my itinerary when I came away, sort of February, March. There's a programme in the UK, Michael Portillo's Railway Journeys. I think it was quite an old series. He travels by train throughout Europe and he gets off at various points of interest and talks about them. And he came to Coventry and he talked about the cathedral. And he also talked about the architecture around the city. And he did mention that it was this brutalism, the lots of concrete. So I was fascinated to see this for myself. And I've got to be honest, I got off the train yesterday and I had to walk through the centre where all these precincts are, the 1950s vision. And the first thing that struck me, yes, it looks pretty old-fashioned, these old-fashioned shops with flats above. They do look old-fashioned now. But the thing that struck me was there was no traffic. The entire city had a chance to like rebuild itself after the war, when money became available again. And the town planners decided, they had like a vision of a city of the future, and they decided to make it very pedestrian friendly. So they took all the traffic basically on a huge ring road going around the city. And the centre was for shops, residential areas, and car free. Now there are some roads that have got buses, but there's no traffic. And the first thing I noticed when I got into the city was that how lovely it was to walk around, how peaceful, and actually very much reminded me of parts of Budapest. And you look up and there are these very obviously 1950s buildings, a lot of them looking quite tatty, but with the precinct where the shops are, the main high street shops are here, the Marks and Spencers and all the eateries, and yeah, just this pleasant area to just sit and look. And there's the statue of Lady Godiva. There's a clock, it's pretty famous, built in the 50s again, where Lady Godiva, this figure from medieval times, comes out on her horse every hour. And I haven't seen that yet, so later today I'm hoping to catch a video of Lady Godiva coming out on her horse with peeping Tom looking down at her. But yeah, I just thought how most of these buildings, like Swansea in Wales, was heavily bombed during the war, rebuilt in sort of the same style again. And I remember as a child thinking how ugly it was, and I was glad when they started redeveloping the city and pulling down these horrible, ugly concrete buildings. And I think now, after visiting Budapest and Bratislava for that matter, and now Coventry, I'm seeing the charm of the way they were designed. I get the vision, and the shame is that now Coventry, I think, are maybe a little embarrassed about the old-fashioned concrete buildings that a lot of people think are ugly. Already there is a huge part of the city that's been razed to the ground, and what's going in its place, of course, is flats and shops, and I know it's going to be like every other city pretty much around the world, lots of retail and flats. And there is a huge, also the other thing that's quite noticeable in Coventry are the high-rise flats, modern ones, because there is a university here, lots of student accommodation. And I was going to bed last night, and as I said, I'll tell you about the hotel shortly, but my room overlooks quite a, well, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but it overlooks a really, really gorgeous sculpture. And also in the background, because it was a lovely sunset last night, you can see all these tower blocks. And because the sky was such a gorgeous colour and this sculpture was all lit up and it was like colour changing, I felt like I was on Las Vegas Strip almost. It was really, really stunning. And yeah, these sculptures, a bit like Dubai, I suppose, you know, is a real cityscape, and yet some medieval buildings here and the 1950s, 60s architecture. It is interesting. You'd think it would really clash, but having walked around the city today, I think it's quite a peaceful city. I think I have felt a nice vibe here. I think possibly because there is a high population of university students here, always makes a place vibrant. But yeah, I've only been here a day and a half so far, but my impression of Coventry, very favourable, very quirky. Some of it looking a little bit tired now. Some of the buildings, restaurants have closed, and inevitably then they look a little bit sad. So yes, there is regeneration going. I got a feeling it's going to be pretty much like every other city around, but there are little gems, and I'll tell you about my hotel. The hotel I paid, and it's right in the city centre, I paid £48 for this hotel room. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a fancy hotel room, as you can see, pretty basic. It's got an ensuite. It's big, it's surprisingly big. But £48. I booked it because of its location. It is literally next door to the cathedral, literally next door. I can see the spire from my room here if I crane my neck. The location is perfect, and as I said to you, the room looks out over this sculpture, which is called the Whittle Arch, built in the 2000s, and it's like this huge, like a spider almost, metal arch with 4 legs going across the road by the bus station. And at night it's all lit up. It looks spectacular, really, really does. Back to the hotel. It's called the Britannia Hotel, and I read the reviews and they weren't favourable. I mean, not awful, just how tired and dated it was. But I thought, how bad can it be for £48? I mean, I'm used to sleeping in Romney, so I don't mind a small bedroom. But as I said, it turns out the room is really big, but the outside of it. Talk about Brutalist. It is straight out of the late 60s. Now, when I was in London a couple of weeks ago, I went to see where they filmed Clockwork Orange. Again, the Brutalist architecture I like. And this hotel is like a big block with these weird jutting out balconies, all made of concrete, stairways. In fact, there's a postcard here. If I show you that, this is a postcard. I picked it up because it was so quirky. A postcard of the hotel. I don't know when it was filmed, but you can see the cathedral right next to it. And when it was built, it opened, I've Googled it, this opened in 1973. And obviously because of its location right next to the cathedral, it was the De Vere, so it was a really rather fancy hotel. And it had like cocktail lounges here. And you can see when you walk in, it's got a gorgeous reception area with all the sort of dropped ceiling with like a, I don't know, mouldings and very fancy wooden reception. But the interesting thing, the thing I love about this hotel, none of it's been changed. Anywhere else, they would have ripped out the old 60s reception desk and replaced it. But everything here is the same. The lifts are the same. And again, that's what I loved about Budapest. The old Soviet elevators are still there. And this hotel is the same. The corridors are very tired. They've got newish carpet and they've painted, but the doors haven't been. They're the old original doors. It's fine. It's fine for a night. And I quite like seeing honest buildings that are not tarted up, and that's why it's inexpensive, because most people will come here and say, "Oh my God, look at the decor here." £48, by the way, didn't include breakfast. You can have breakfast for £11. I haven't bothered. I went out and got my coffee when I was on my walk this morning, and I will have something to eat later. I don't normally have breakfast anyway, so I haven't partaken of the breakfast, so I can't comment. But for £48, this was a wonderful hotel. I did not expect to have that view this morning, and last night it was quiet. I had my window open, and I'm right next to a bus station, and there were a few people outside last night who were drunk, happy, merry, I don't know, but they weren't aggressive. They were singing and laughing and giggling and happy. Yeah, so no complaints about my £48 hotel at all. And as I said to you, I really booked it because of its location. I'm sure there'd be equally inexpensive guest houses further out, but I wanted to be in the hub to experience the city, and it's been just wonderful. It really has. Now, today I've been for a nice walk to take in all the little architecture bits and the medieval buildings. Really glad I've done that. The skies are looking more and more grey, but that's okay, because today my plan, and I can see it again from my hotel window, I'm going on another geek stop. I'm visiting Coventry Transport Museum. Apparently, as I said to you, the car industry was massive here. It was called the Detroit of the UK. Obviously all the industry is now gone, but this museum houses all the cars that were built here, and I'm really excited to go and see that. Not because I'm a car knowledgeable about cars at all. The reason I like going to see classic cars is because I can't smell. I lost my smell during COVID, but I always remember the smell of the cars my father used to have. And it's just nostalgic. It's a bit like everything else I love, like the architecture around here. It's nostalgic. It reminds me of my childhood. So yeah, looking forward to going to the Transport Museum today. I did notice a Waterstones here as well, which is my favourite bookshop in the entire world. They normally have nice comfy chairs that you can choose some books and browse them, have a nice sit down. Looking forward to that. Maybe a little bit of retail therapy, not to buy anything, just to look really. And then yeah, a nice pleasant train journey home. For those of you worrying about Teddy, the reason I mostly go away in Romney is because my little dog, she's elderly, she's on insulin, but I did leave her last night. My daughter stayed with her and has done all her insulin and everything, and she's been absolutely fine, so no worries about Teddy. So I did miss her because I'm with Teddy now pretty much all the time. I do miss her, so looking forward to going back to see her later on this afternoon. But I know from some of the comments that there's a few of you who've got your own interests. A lot of you love the outdoors, and somebody's also mentioned classic cars. So if you're into classic cars and if you haven't been to Coventry, then maybe check out the Transport Museum here. I've not been to see it yet, but I'll do a video on it probably and do a short. So that will be coming up. But yeah, this is why I am loving retirement. I get time to do this. Now, I could have done it with a job as well. I could have fitted in a day here and a day there. But the way I'm feeling now, it is when it's Wednesday. I've had 2 lovely days here. It's been pretty inexpensive. I think my train return was something like £70. The hotel, £48. And not that I've tried to do it on the cheap at all. It's just I've explained the reasons I wanted to stay in this hotel. I didn't eat out last night. I went to the Marks and Spencer's and bought some snacks there and drinks. And there's a Sainsbury's just opposite as well. And I went in there and got some other little snacks and odds and ends. And I just had them in the room here last night. As I said to you, the room has been so perfect because there is a huge window here. And the sun was coming in last night. There was this lovely sunset. Just luckily, my room was facing the sunset. So all the sun was streaming in. I had my book and I was scrolling and just had a really pleasant evening, a nice relax. And as I said, this is what I just love about retirement, the time to do these trips. Yeah, today's Wednesday, I'm going back home. I've got a few other things to do this week. And then from next week, I'm off in Romney, planning to go away probably about 10 nights to another part of the UK. No fixed plan. I know roughly where I'm heading at the end of the trip, and I'm going to slowly make my way down. So I'll be doing some more filming from there. Some more thoughts on retirement, because it seems to have definitely resonated with so many of you, and so many of you have already made the leap into retirement. I don't want to convince anyone to retire. If you're not ready to retire or you're worried for any reason, then it's your decision. But for those, and I know there's a few of you who've commented, sent messages that you kind of like the idea and you're a bit nervous, but it's like I've said to some of you, what's the worst that can happen? If you think you have the money to retire and you're just thinking maybe it's not enough, or you know, what will you do? Try it. Try it, I would suggest. You can always go back to work. Maybe not the work you're in now, maybe not as well paid as the job you're in now, but I can't really see many disadvantages. If I wanted to, I'm reasonably confident that I could go back to work full time if I wanted to. Not in sales, probably. I've been out of it too long. But I could go back to doing something. I just choose not to. Income is a different matter. I've said many times that I'm getting some income from social media, and I do want to build on it. And I want to build on it because I want a cushion behind me, definitely, for the reasons I've mentioned on other videos. But I don't class it as a job because I actually enjoy doing it. I genuinely enjoy doing it, and I enjoy the connection with you. And it's also a challenge to me to do it, to go out there and film. I think it's skills I'm picking up and learning, and I don't want to stagnate and kind of just get rusty with everything. I want to keep pushing myself to do things that are a little bit uncomfortable. So yes, hopefully, maybe if you were doubtful about whether you could do it, maybe a little nudge to some of you to say, try it. Hopefully you can also enjoy doing things that you like doing, as I've been doing the last few days. So I'm going to sign out now, but I will be going home, editing this, and then doing some shorts on the sites of Coventry. So look out for some of the shorts on here. Take care, everyone. Hope you're all having an amazing week.